Hey everyone, happy Facebook Live. It's been a while since we've been on. The weather's absolutely fantastic. Hope everybody's having a great evening. Floridians not going to have a great evening, especially in the western coast. They're getting slammed in Tampa with thunderstorm activity, heavy rain, training thunderstorms, storm surge, tornadoes. It's all going to be possible, flooding. And not only that, but storm surge has gone up because now the National Hurricane Center has a category 4 making landfall here in just under 12 hours. Big Bend of Florida is going to get smacked. You got it. Going to be watching that. Sarasota, I think, is going to be on the okay side. That's not as much in the path of the hurricane, so that's some good news. We'll go over some of that, and we'll look at some of the areas and different stuff. We're gonna go detail in that. So yeah, everything's looking pretty good. I mean, I know Sarasota is within that area of Tampa, but that's on the south side of Tampa. They're getting thunderstorms. They're going to have the potential for some tornadoes, but the storm surge isn't really going to be much of an impact there. There'll be some in the Tampa area, and we'll go into all that and we'll take a look at everything. But hope everybody's having a good Tuesday. Man, I hope you're enjoying this weather. The weather's absolutely fantastic. But let's dive into some of the details. I don't want to spend all night on there. I don't want to waste your time. And I know I don't do a Facebook Live every night, but we just kind of do it on some of the more significant weather events. So, if I'm doing a Facebook Live, maybe sometimes it's to chat. Other times it's probably just to give you information about an important weather system. So here's a look at what's happening in Tampa right now. Sarasota, as you can see, some thunderstorm activity coming through. A little bit of a storm surge, but you're okay, Lisa. As you'll see, there's Sarasota, and the eye is already actually past it in terms of the latitude. So you're going to be okay. Your daughter lives there. I bet you're watching that. Fort Myers is okay as well. That's already come through the area of Fort Myers. So if we take a look here, you got Sarasota, you got Fort Myers Beach. Yeah, some thunderstorm activity, some of the outer bands. That's probably not going to have as much tornado potential because it's in the southeastern quadrant. Northeastern quadrant is most likely for tornadoes. So just kind of letting you know there. Um, let's take a look at some of the stuff with the latest on Idalia. And we're going to look at some of the satellite presentation. I was telling Peyton this earlier this evening how I think it was going to be a category 3 here before midnight. And I think that's looking like the case. So here's the satellite and radar. Very intense hurricane. Look at that eye wall. Really rapidly developing. Also getting very tight. It's a very tight eye. It's encountering some very warm waters just off the coast of Florida. The dry air entrainment isn't great right now, so that's strengthening the hurricane. You'll notice, too, that as we stop it at the very end, there is some lightning within the eye wall. If we look at this, well, actually, we won't see the lightning on this product, but you'll see it on another one. Um, okay, let's look at the infrared satellite because this will really tell the story. And if you watch my newscast at 5, I was saying we're having an eye wall develop, and that eye is getting very well defined right now. And so this is the 1-minute updates for the mesosector. So let me stop it here. We're going to zoom in, and you can see that eye, also known as the central dense overcast, very well defined. The central dense overcast is all of the thunderstorms that are surrounding the circulation. And if you look, it's pretty symmetric too. There's not a whole lot of wind shear that's going on. You can see how the wind shear is weakened. What's interesting with hurricanes is you have counterclockwise low pressure, but in the upper levels, you have an anticyclone, high pressure, and that's rotating in a clockwise direction. So we don't have great outflow on all quadrants yet. Look at that band, though. That feeder band is definitely very impressive approaching the Tampa area. And there was going to be some thunderstorms, like I said, but the main impacts of this not going to be as bad. So yeah, lightning in the eye wall means it's getting stronger. That means you have developing thunderstorms. In fact, if we go back, I'm going to show you this here. We're going to look at the 1-minute visible satellite. Now, obviously, once the sun goes down, you can't see it anymore. But what we can do is we can go back in time, and we'll give you the latest track here. So just bear with me just a second. But watch the thunderstorm development surrounding the center of circulation. So this is 2 o'clock, and I said, Peyton, it's got that look. See the way the thunderstorms are wrapping around the circulation? They're rapidly developing. When that happens, you get the development of an eye. So our eye is forming literally right here. It's moving north really fast. So you can see at the very last images, rapid intensification. The pressure is dropping, but the winds didn't quite respond. Now they're starting to respond. And then you're going to notice right here at about 5:14 that eye starting to develop. Now the eye has sinking air. So if you can think about this, this is a great way to describe the way that a hurricane is operating. Think of your spin cycle on your laundry, your washing machine. So when you're spinning, and think of a vertical loader, not a horizontal. Horizontal doesn't work as well, but side loader doesn't work as well. But a top loader, you have obviously when it's spinning, it's trying to get rid of all the rain or all the wet clothes, all the water in the clothes, not the rain. Maybe you got caught out in the rain, you're soaked, you're drying off your clothes, but that centrifuging, that force that basically tries to squeeze the water out when it's spinning. Well, that's what's happening with a hurricane. The eye wall has all of the winds that are kind of centrifuging on the outside of that eye. And then in the middle, you have high pressure. So it's actually aloft, high pressure, and that's sinking air. So it's really low at the surface. And remember, the pressure goes from high to low. So if you have high above the hurricane and low pressure at the surface in the center of the storm, that's why you have that sinking air. Sinking air erodes the clouds. You're going to see the erosion of clouds. Look at all those thunderstorms. Now, this is at sunset. So the darker shades right here that you're seeing is the sun angle getting lower, and those storms are essentially what they're doing is they're blocking out the sun's rays, and that's the shadowing effect. So then you can see that system really cranking up. Now look at the other thunderstorm activity. This is where it starts getting symmetric. And then, of course, we start losing. But once it has that look, all the hurricanes that have that look start really cranking up. So let's go to the visible satellite. We'll go back 6 hours. We'll take a look at this. Actually, we'll go back a little bit more. Let's go back 12 hours. And so we'll take a look at this. I'm going to slow down this loop a little bit so we can see this in motion. So here we go. We have thunderstorms. See how they're kind of wrapping around the center of circulation? Whenever they start doing that, you look at Katrina, you look at Michael, you look at all those hurricanes that have rapidly intensified, they all have that. They're all doing that. And there's a look at the storm. I think there's one thing that the National Hurricane Center really struggles with, and it's because models struggle with it, and that is the intensity forecasts. I just don't think the models are there for the intensity forecast. We can show the microwave imaging, and so we have to look at a polar orbiter for that. We'll take a look at that. So if you do not see the eye disappear, do not let your guard down. This means that it's going through an eye wall replacement cycle. There is some type of weakening, though, to be honest with you, that does occur with an eye wall replacement cycle. But what it does is it causes the wind radius to expand out. So, yeah, we're going to get category 4 here, I think, really soon with this. Speaking of category 4, here's the very latest National Hurricane Center information. Now, keep in mind, this is at 10 o'clock. We're already close to 11, and I think we continue to see the pressure falling. So it's gone from 965, 958. Now we've got winds 110 miles an hour, gusts to 125. 111 is category 3. Now, what's wild is you'll see this and it goes to category 4. Like, where did category 3 go? Look at how fast that thing is moving, too. We'll go back to the speed. It's increasing in speed. We'll get to that, why as well. And I'll answer some of your other questions about around here. But there's a look at a level 4. So Tallahassee is going to be on the western side of the eye. So what does that mean? Well, you don't have the forward motion that's added to the wind speed. You don't have the tornado potential. You still have winds that could be strong enough to knock down trees. But Tallahassee is going to be on the western side, and that's not as bad, but it's still bad enough. It's still going to be pretty nasty. People don't realize how intense hurricanes are. Um, so we're talking some really serious stuff. But there's a look at that, and look at the storm surge forecast too. Oh my goodness, this has gone up even since the time that I've done the 10 o'clock news. So this is brand new, folks. This is yikes. This is not good. Let me show you here what we've got. They've actually got, it looks like 17 feet now. So now I will say this for anybody that's from Florida, is this an area that's populated? It doesn't look very populated to me. I know some people live there, obviously, but we're not looking at super population. But look at that storm surge. That is very high. We're talking over 15 feet over a large area. And I'll tell you what, Cedar Key could be dodging a bullet just because the track is going north. Now, I will say this: if any wobble or any type of significant little wobble in the eye is going to create tremendous difference in Horseshoe Beach. But I think one of the areas that's going to be impacted the most, I said it before, there is one area, Deckle Beach. I think Deckle Beach is going to be having to watch this for sure. It could be Decklay Beach. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. Steinhatchee is also in trouble. So there are some areas that do have population, and of course, anywhere along the Gulf, you've got population, but thankfully not super heavy populated, but bad enough for those people that are in that area. Yeah, I hope Zach Hall stays safe too. Storm chasing. Hurricanes, I don't know if I think he's done a hurricane before. Major hurricanes are a serious deal. I was through Katrina. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I actually covered Katrina for the Little Rock station, the NBC affiliate, KARK. I was down there with a crew from Beaumont. And yeah, we were driving across Lake Pontchartrain. It was pretty wild. So, okay, Cami has great advice here. So, I'm from Florida. It's a lot of wilderness there, but obviously Tallahassee is going to get hit. Tall pine trees are a huge issue. Pine trees don't bend. Palm trees do. I know. Those pine trees are going to get snapped. Winds are going to be strong enough. All the houses there are on high stilts. Well, that makes sense. But high enough to be a 20-foot storm surge, that's up there. That's pretty high. So thanks for that information. I want to show you this. This is kind of cool. Dylan says microwave imaging. We will show some of that. Let me go to this though. I want to show you this. This is kind of cool. I'm going to share this, and you can get this too online. It's called windy.com. It's a great website that basically shows streamlines. And so I'm going to bring this up full so everybody can see it. But what this is Hurricane Idalia. Notice how the eastern side of the eye is the worst with the strength of the winds. We'll look at the HRRR, and you'll see that it's got some winds that are an estimate of 65 knots now. But what I really want to show you is the streamlines. You can see the way the streamlines are flowing offshore right now. So there's no storm surge impacts because the winds are blowing off the shore, taking the water away, almost creating like a low tide. But once that Hurricane Idalia's eye gets a little closer, almost like within the same latitude as Cedar Key, all this will start being onshore flow. There's also a little bit of a storm surge on the western side of the Tampa area and the Bay. But there's a look at all that onshore flow, and that goes a while, by the way. That goes all the way down here to Key West. And so even when the hurricane is passed, a lot of people don't realize that even though you got the least amount of winds, you still have that onshore flow that can create quite the storm surge. Another thing, too, that I want to mention is the way the land is, and you can see the way the land is kind of funneled. There's the Big Bend of Florida. That area will essentially pile up the water, because if you think about it, if I have a large mass of water and I squeeze it into a small area, it's got to rise. That's why that's a pretty bad area for storm surge. Yeah, Alex, I can. We'll show the incredible view of Idalia and Franklin. Now, it won't be able to be on the floater because I think the floater only gets one. Yeah, so there's the mesosector essentially. But if we look at this, there's the infrared satellite. It almost looks like the day after tomorrow, which is a movie that's not scientifically accurate, but at the same time entertaining, fun to watch. Yeah, Franklin has a massive eye. Now Franklin's gone through several eye wall replacement cycles. Here's what we need to do. Let's go back because we have the ability to do this, and you can't really do this online. We're going to go back in time, and we're going to go way back in time. I can go back basically 7 days. Now, it might take a while to load this stuff, but if we go back, let's go back 120 hours. Like I said, it's going to take a while to load. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to remove this. I'm going to go back to where Franklin and Idalia are happening. So there you go. There's the imagery, infrared imagery. I got to bring up the microwave imagery too. So. Let's see here. I don't have that bookmarked, but I can find it here. Okay. Yeah, here you go. Okay. Yeah, you can definitely see that strengthening. So I don't have a zoomed in view, but let me bring this back up here. Stand by. Sorry for that. I was just searching for this microwave imagery. Let me zoom in here a little bit. All right, here's the microwave imagery from Sims. I'm going to have to add this again. There you go. There's the microwave imagery. Vmax about 98 knots. The brightness and temp, so the brighter it is, there you can see that colder cloud tops as well. And then there it is moving north. It is moving fast. Man, is it cruising. So that's that polar orbiter that's happening with microwave imagery. But there you go. There you get to see that. And that's from Sims. And so very intense eye, might be going through a little bit of an eye wall replacement cycle, which will widen the wind field and continue to strengthen the storm. But I want to go back to, for now, we're going to remove that. I want to show you, this should be loaded 120 hours. So let's go ahead and watch this. I'm going to take my camera off the screen too, so you can see this in full. So let's go back to here. All right. So here we have the development of Franklin and there we go. And Idalia. So there's Franklin forming. There you have the thunderstorms. See that? Look at the wrapping around of the centralized location. So that's just exactly what Idalia is going through right now. There's the thunderstorms that are cranking up. There's the spiraling that happens around the center of the eye. That just shows you it's really rapidly increasing. This is about where we are with Idalia, right about here. And then watch what happens with that spiraling of the storms. And look at how they just crank up, and then boom. So that happened right about there, Sunday evening, and then by Monday late morning. And that's what I fear. This is what we might be having as we go into Wednesday morning, as that eye continues to really start to get defined. So as a matter of fact, we can go to this right here. And that's at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday. I'm going to zip ahead real quick, and that's what it's looking like right now. Wow, some really cold cloud tops on the western side of that eye. That is some really explosive thunderstorm development. My goodness, that's not good. That's some very intense storms. So yeah, Alex, hopefully you got to see that. No, Florida has not seen a 20-foot storm surge in my lifetime. Very scary. Now that's going to be very localized, but nice, Jacob. Buoy, yeah, I don't have the buoys pulled up, but getting winds 44.7 sustained and going up. That entire area dries up during low tide. What is the timing of the tides? That's a good question, Dylan. Can you look it up? I actually don't know. Um, Tide schedule. Let's see. Uh so high tide it looks like is 12:46. So the tide is rising, but it's rising, of course, because of the hurricane too. But low tide is actually right around 7 o'clock. I don't think it really matters though. So yeah, next high tide is 2:37. Next low tide is 7:50. Kind of like when it's expected to make landfall. So that's some information there. And I have the buoys pulled up for you. Cool. Yeah, WSV3. Rapid intensification. Absolutely. This is going to be getting category 4 status for sure. Now, what I want to show you too is I want to go back to the rest of the track because after it's category 4, keep in mind that's going to take a while to spin down and for friction to take over to weaken this thing. And I mean, category 1 through Georgia and South Carolina, I mean, that's 74 mile an hour winds. I mean, no, that's obviously not super widespread, but there's going to be a swath of 74 mile an hour winds. And that's bad news where you have trees getting knocked down, power outages, and what else? Now, the reason that it's curving off to the northeast and not impacting us, this is a great way to show you. There's the trough of low pressure, and that's why it's so dry out there. That's why it's so awesome and beautiful right now. You'll notice here that's getting absorbed in that jet stream. So that's why it gets slingshotted basically to the northeast and away from our area. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if honestly this takes a little bit more of an easterly jog just because it's starting to get absorbed by that trough. The waters are really warm. The wind shear is very weak. There's not a lot of dry air. You can see the outflow kicking out the dry air entrainment. So, I mean, really, honestly, that there's nothing to really stop Idalia from strengthening even more. I wonder if it could reach Cat 5 status. It could. We could be hitting category 4 and then category 5. Now, those intensity forecasts, they're terrible with hurricane models. Look at that beautiful weather over us. So, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, we're just looking really, really nice around here. There was a little weak wave of energy and it fired off. I don't know if you knew this or not, but it fired off a little bit of isolated activity, little pop up showers. You can see them developing right there, north central Oklahoma. Other than that, I mean, get out and enjoy it. By the way, there is a nearly full moon. Some people were asking if it was a full moon tonight. It's not, it's tomorrow night. And tomorrow night is the let's see if we can still see the moon. Probably still check the light out from our Kessler. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's the nearly full moon. Tomorrow is the full blue supermoon. It's the second blue moon in the calendar month. There's two types of blue moons, actually. There's a blue moon where you have four full moons in a season. So like autumn, winter, spring, and then there's two full moons in a calendar month. What is weird is after it makes landfall and it goes back in the Atlantic, it looks like it wraps back around in the longer run. Some of the models do have it wrapping back around. It It does make sense, honestly, because you get the trough of low pressure to swing out, which means the Bermuda high is going to set back up. So it's really going to slow down as it tracks to the east. I don't know if it makes a full curve. That would be that would be unreal, though, if it made a full curve. But there's a lot of uncertainty what it does out here. But it makes sense when the trough of low pressure swings out, then everything else is going to change. Full moon usually means a king tide. Gosh sakes, that's another thing. I didn't even think of that, Stacy. That's a good observation. Not only that, but it's a perigee moon, so it's a super moon. It only takes one storm to make it a bad hurricane season. So, well, I'm going to go till 30 minutes, but let me know if there's anything else you want to see, anything else you want to look at. I'm going to bookmark, by the way, this infrared, or not infrared, but the microwave imagery. Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That really took off for sure. There's also a super typhoon too. Yeah, there's Franklin. Yeah, let me bookmark that real quick. Weather links. And we'll throw that into weather forecasting. I'll put that right under it goes. There we go. All right. Any potential waves coming off Africa? Great question. I think you already know the answer. There is an area that we have to watch. Yeah, something to watch for sure. So let me bring this up here. NHC. Here it is right here. Disturbance 30% with a 7-day 60% formation. So if we look, pretty impressive wave. It'll be tough to make it to the United States the way that it's tracking, though, because that trough of low pressure will eventually swing eastward, might catch this system and curve it north. But regardless, it'll be something to watch. I haven't looked that far out, but there's that formation. Let me see if oh, I'm not on it. I'm so sorry. I thought it was, but it's not on the window. Yeah, stand by. Let me go to stop screen. There we go. Now we're on the window. So there's a look at the tropical system. There's 11, tropical depression 11. Here's the next disturbance. 60% chance of formation within the next 7 days. That's the wave coming off of Africa. I don't think that's going to be a super big deal, but already starting to get the outer bands. What's now coming closer with all that rain as we take a look at. Yeah, sorry, I had the comment up there. Oh, here you go. I have something for everyone. I know the difference, but not a lot of people don't. The difference between a typhoon, cyclone, and hurricane. What a great comment. Before I get to that, here's a look at Mega Doppler and showing that rain that's starting to approach Horseshoe Beach, Cedar Key. Preparation should have already been underway. So there you go. There is a tornado watch, by the way, for that area as well. If we look, you're going to see the outlined watch area right there, obviously in the eastern quadrant. Okay, I think I've got a graphic for that. But if I don't, let's see here. Stand by. I guess I don't. I'll just explain it. It's about the location. Typhoon is west of the international date line in the Western Pacific. Hurricane is in the eastern to central Pacific and the Atlantic. And a typhoon is southern Pacific and the Indian Ocean. So it's basically the question I'm answering is the difference between a typhoon, which is as it's approaching Asia, and Japan. It's all about location. So yeah, location, location, location. Cyclone is the Indian Ocean and the Southern Pacific, and hurricane is the Atlantic, Eastern, and Central Pacific. So there you go. When is it expected to be Cat 4? It's expected to be Cat 4, Chris, so it makes landfall, but that honestly might happen by 4 a.m., honestly. Rode out Hurricane Opal, went to bed. It was a Cat 2, woke up to a 150 mile per hour Cat 4. You know, that could be what we're looking at. I got to say, very intense. Look at this. My goodness, look at those thunderstorms that are wrapping around. Now, this is exactly what Franklin looked like right before that eye became perfectly symmetric. So this is what we had Franklin on Sunday night, and then Monday morning you woke up and it was just an incredible eye. Look at that thunderstorm activity, and it's spiraling around the eye. So how far is the eye from land? Yes, I can't measure it. That's a great idea. How far is it from land? Let's take a look here. Where I think it's going to make landfall, it kind of curves a little bit more to the northeast. The eye, it's about 130 to 140 miles. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I think there's going to be a lot of tornado activity that's going to be happening in the Carolinas, which, not really talking about, but with the system moving northeast and with that southeasterly flow to easterly flow, it's going to be a mess. There's going to be easterly to southeasterly to southerly. It's going to be a perfect veering profile for tornadic activity as it crosses over Florida and then that northeastern quadrant. A lot of storms coming off the coast, hitting Georgia's coast and South Carolina, even North Carolina too. So there's a lot of impacts from these storms. People don't even realize it. Okay, guys. Any more questions? And then I'll have to tell you something here before I end. Yeah, still has plenty of time to ramp up. Man, look at that eye. I got to show you this. Here's Mega Doppler real quick. Very impressive eye from Tampa's radar. Almost a perfect circle. Look at all the lightning, too. You see that? Lightning in the eye wall indicates rapid intensification. Well, it's what we feared. Didn't think those intensity forecasts were too great. And now we have a massive storm. So, pressure 958. Pressure's 958, David. It's going through another eye wall replacement cycle. It really hasn't even done an eye wall replacement cycle yet. It's the eye is just starting to form, Joshua. But there's your pressure. And if you're just jumping on, this is the track. So it's interesting. It's so fast that it goes from a category 2 to a category 4. It almost skips a category 3. Now, keep in mind, it becomes category 3 overnight. It's only 1 mile an hour away from category 3. And if you missed it earlier, look at the storm surge now. We're talking, there was just very few areas colored in orange. Now we got brown and even deep orange. So I guess a yellowish orange. This is like Oklahoma State orange. So you can see that's over 17 feet. 17 to 18 feet. The way is kind of starting to replace itself. Let's check it out. Like I said, I don't think the eye is actually fully developed yet. See how it's still wobbling? I would not call that an eye wall replacement cycle. Another thing is on radar, you can see an eye wall replacement cycle because it actually creates another band around the eye, and that's not really happening. Oh yeah, the eye is nuts, Stacy, for sure. That is on my bucket list. What exactly is storm surge? Brent, great question. And we actually have a graphic for that. So storm surge is basically a wall of water over time that's getting forced up and over from the winds. It's piling up. So if you were to take a fan in a bathtub and basically blow on a smaller scale, blow the water, eventually it's going to start piling up. So here's a look at storm surge. So there's your normal sea level, and you've got the wind that's obviously causing waves. And then over time, that storm surge starts rising because the low pressure is literally pulling the water up, and you have an increase in essentially a wall of water. So it's like a tide, essentially. It's like a moving tide. That's what the storm surge is. Stronger storms do tend to wobble more, and they really start wobbling when you get closer to land, too. It's hitting at low tide. Low tide is at 7 o'clock. High tide's right now. And so, a few feet does make a difference. So that's good news. Now I have another one too. So that's a storm surge graphic. Let's see. We got another one. Here's a look at the difference between the Saffir-Simpson scale. So this is one that we've made. So category 1 has winds 74 to 95. So there's not as much damage. You have a little bit of shingles blown over. Category 2 is 110. Remember, that's where we're at right now. So you have extensive damage. I mean, that's EF1 tornado. EF1 even close to EF2. Then category 3, a little stronger, 111 to 129. See how that water is starting to pile up too? Category 4, you're getting really deep inland storm surge. Palm trees are leaning. We're not far away from category 3. And then category 5 is just, the worst, obviously. Everything's gone. I hope we don't get category 5. So, anyways, there's some information about hurricanes, the Saffir-Simpson scale, the strength of the winds, all that stuff. It's true, but hurricanes also bring tornadoes as well. So that's what makes it scarier. Oh, absolutely, Joshua. And it's a great point that you make because the gusts are stronger. Now, keep in mind that sustained wind is in a very localized area. It's not the entire region of the hurricane. And I think people sometimes forget that. It's very close to the eye wall. Oh, Marty, I think you're enjoying life right now. Destin, let me know how the water is. I bet you it's kind of wild how it's offshore flow. It should be just offshore flow, which means that those waves probably aren't too bad, but there are probably some really bad rip currents. So let me know, Marty. Yeah, eye wall usually has the strongest winds. Absolutely. No, absolutely not. And there was that lady that talked about Florida on September 6th getting hit by a category 6 on TikTok. No, there's no category 6. You can't get any worse than category 5, just like you're not going to have an EF6 tornado. It'll never get stronger than that. Well, I think I exhausted everything, except for our 7 day. You want to see our beautiful weather? Yeah, I know. Golly. There you go. Destin went double red flags today because of rip currents. Yep. I bet there are. Um, I think you'll be okay. Puerto Rico in 10 days. Oh, you're headed in 10 days. Storm Prediction Center's tornado outlook is 5%. We'll take a look at that. That's a good question. Has been double red flags all evening. So that just means you can't swim, which is a bummer. That's a not a good time to go to Destin. I've been there because I was there in mid June when there were double red flags. It was so rough. Picture perfect weather, mid to upper 80s. Saturday, Sunday, lower 90s. Look at Labor Day in the lower 90s. So some really nice weather around here. Maybe a slight chance of rain. Razorback kickoff will probably be upper 80s, I think, and then getting into the 90s and mid 90s by the end of the game. River Valley forecast shows mid 90s, but you can see the morning lows aren't super humid. So we have some really nice weather, very dry because of the trough of low pressure, clearing out our moisture, and Idalia too. Remember, with the counterclockwise flow around Idalia, if you're on the west side of that, you're getting northerly winds, and that's going to continue. I'm ready for hog football as well, for sure. All right, real quick, let's look at the outlook for tornadoes. It's a good question because I haven't looked at the latest. So let's see it. I'll zoom out a little bit. Man, Idalia is zipping along, though. Nearly 20 miles an hour forward motion. So here's the day one outlook. It's a slight. And there's the 5%. Pretty typical with tornadic activity with a tropical system. A lot of wind reports. Obviously, hail is not a concern in tropical systems. You just don't get the mid-level instability. See, this is what I was talking about. Let's look at the day two tour. It's 5% now, above climatology. The day three probability, storm's gone. So it'll be a long gone. But I do think that you're going to be seeing a lot of tornadoes along the Carolinas as well as the Georgia coast. Well, the reason that as technically it is a category 2 storm right now, Jake. That's why they have it as a category 2. Now the thing is if you notice in 12 hours, which is the first tropical basically forecast, let me go show icons for 12 hours. So here you go. There's the first forecast that it does is a category 4. So that's because 12 hours it goes from a high end category 2 to a category 4. And that's why I think that they have it as a category 2. It's not a category 3 unless they issued an update recently. I know they have new hurricane hunters going in there all the time. Nope. Latest information, it's still the exact same. The update. So they just said an update that a buoy reported gusts of 60 miles an hour. That's in the northern rain band. So that's pretty strong. And pressure 958. So they didn't update anything at midnight. So there's not going to be any more updates until 4 a.m. is going to be the next update. The full advisory. There's an intermediate advisory at 1 a.m. That's probably when it'll be category 3. I think we're going to definitely see a category 3 at 1 a.m. And then 4 a.m., that's when we might have category 4. I mean, like literally like that fast. That pressure's dropping so much. No, they won't have They won't have any hail with them. It's not a Cat 3 yet. Okay, what are the water temperatures? Lower to middle 80s. It's extremely warm. Um, on Dixon, what's on Dixon? The water temperatures on Dixon? I don't know. Hopefully, with some ice water, you got some cool water. Oh, there was a question about. Oh, okay. This is what on Dixon. I got you. Is KNWA located in the Northwest Arkansas Mall? No, it is not. It is in. It's on Dixon Street. It's in what's called the Dixon Building, right across from Underwood's, and right next to George's Majestic. So that's where we're at. What's going on in the Big Bend? I have no clue, but the people on the Weather Channel page are not covering it. Really? Huh. Well, we just covered it, Jenny. Yeah, the Big Bend is going to get slammed by a potential low end, maybe mid end category 4 hurricane. Here it is, 130-mile-an-hour winds. And yeah, you can share it. A tremendous storm surge up to potentially 20 feet in some isolated locations. Tremendous amounts of rain. Here's a look at the latest mega Doppler radar source. The eye is currently about 140 miles off the coast, Jenny. So I won't be doing this live all night. We will have another live update that Josh Rugger will do. He might even do it before the 5 o'clock show. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does launch a Facebook Live for those that are wondering. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a rough night. Now, like we said, it is hitting at a low tide, but we do have the super blue moon and many other things that are occurring. Along with the Big Bend is an area that's pretty notorious for storm surge. So we'll go back to the storm surge graphic. Again, a rapid intensification, still category 2, becomes category 4 right before it makes landfall at 130-mile-an-hour winds. There's no category 3 because the forecast period in 12 hours goes from a 2 to 4 because it's basically almost a category 3 now. Here's a look at that storm surge. So we can zoom way in so you can see some of those areas. And these are not super highly populated. But if we work our way down, I'll show you the worst is going to be. Well, that's pretty good inundation of storm surge right there. Look at how deep inland that is, too. So fairly unpopulated, but if we zoom in, I don't know why it doesn't have all those areas on there. So there's St. Mark's. So it gives you an idea. It's like St. Mark's to Horseshoe Beach is going to be the worst of it. And if we go to Mega Doppler, we could take a look at some of the areas here that will have a little bit more. So as you know, it's not very populated right here. But this area, and I don't know if you were from this area, is that Declay Beach or is that Deckel Beach? Because I honestly don't know how to pronounce that. Steinhatchee is going to be impacted for sure, and then Horseshoe Beach. So I think a landfall is going to be very close to Steinhatchee because it looks like it's going to be wobbling as it goes north. Boy, look at that eye. That is impressive. Is that area the same area that was hit last time? No. If you're talking about Michael was hit farther west. So if we look, Michael was here. Mexico Beach, Port St. Joe, Tyndall Air Force Base right here. That was where Michael was. That's where the eye of Michael went. So it's close, but it's not quite. Whoo! 11-foot wind wave height at 13 feet. Yeah, I mean, the motion of the waves is going to increase it. It's also going to increase the storm surge as well. So one last look at the infrared satellite, and then I got to go to bed, everyone. Well, not go to bed, but I have to leave here. I'll definitely be watching what's happening with this. So it looks like the eye is starting to become a pinwheel eye, a pinhole eye. Excuse me, a pinhole eye is it's not good. It means the pressure's really lowering. Yeah. Well, we got some really educated people on here, Cammy. You're right on the nose with that. Look at that though. Yikes. That's a lot of thunderstorm development. Kind of a little asymmetric now, but that's because it's cranking up quite a bit. So hopefully it slows down. Or I don't know. Is it do you want us to slow down and it has more time to strengthen? The faster it is, the stronger the winds are. I don't know. It's not a good situation either way. So all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. One last word of advice I saw over the weekend. This is just totally random, but I want to know if anybody's seen it. Gran Turismo, amazing movie. I mean, it was incredible. Orlando flights are going to be trouble because there's going to be bands of thunderstorms. There's going to be tornado potential. I think for the first part of your Wednesday, there's going to be some issues and delays. Jip. So Gip, I think that's Gip. So Gip, I just want to let you know about that. There's going to be some issues in the morning. Maybe the second half of the day it's going to be better, but those bands happen a long ways south of the hurricane. So there's going to be some delays and possibly even some cancellations. But Gran Turismo, a great movie. I definitely highly recommend it. I know that's out of left field, but made me think of it. It was an awesome movie. And if you're into gaming, even if you're not, the cinematography is great. Very impressed by it. I don't endorse it, but I do love it. So it was a great movie. All right, I got to go. My voice is lowering, and we will catch you guys later. God bless. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy this beautiful weather. Have your thoughts and prayers for those Floridians. So take care. We'll see you guys later. Have a good day.